We're responsible for these animals and we're all very close to them. When one does get injured and it's that severe, it's a horrible situation to be in.
For me was the worry that this was going to be problematic, and to manage an injury like this conservatively is going to be very, very difficult.
You know, having that early assessment, that was all beneficial towards his survival ultimately, yeah.
Charles Street as a character, he was very cheeky, very playful, but at the same time he was safe as a house. You could almost put anyone on him. Everyone loved him, to be honest. I loved him. He was a character.
He was lovely to train. He was very straightforward. If we had someone coming for a trial or someone that was having their first day of schooling, Charles Street would always be the man we'd go to, and he always looked after people, you know.
So it was a routine work morning, but it was on the radio. Charles Street's coming back in. He's lame.
The day he was injured, I was actually in behind, so I saw it happen. Another horse's boot had come off on the gallop, and the next lap round he spooked at it, and I think he's just ran into the bank. Immediately he went lame, and it was, you know, badly lame. And everyone was like, that is really not good. And he was attended to pretty much immediately.
So we had, after a brief examination and a good feel of his legs, he was quite sore when you went to flex the knee. So we x-rayed the knee, and you could see immediately where there was, he had quite a nasty comminuted fracture of the accessory carpal bone. I was thinking, okay, racing is definitely out. And because the wedge was so big, I'm thinking even if we remove this, we're going to be left with such a deficit in bone. You know, I was brutally honest and said, look, prognosis here is not looking great.
Kev was very worried about him, but you know, having that early assessment and not having to wait for a vet to come was, I think, vital to his survival, because Kev was able to wrap it up and stabilise it very quickly.
Within 10 minutes of Fergal radioing the horse to say that he was on his way back down to the yard, he was x-rayed, diagnosis was made, and the leg was immobilised and pain relief was given. So yeah, it's all very quick, yeah.
Went to Newmarket that morning actually, so probably 4 hours after he had the accident. Yeah, I always find it fascinating that if that was a human, we'd be waiting days.
So luckily, Charles Street was insured by Gallagher Insurance, and that made the whole process a lot quicker, so we were able to expedite a lot of things that we wouldn't have to sit on and waited for decisions to be made. Because he was insured, the owners were happy to go ahead.
You know, Andre and everyone at Jockey Club were willing to give him the chance, and you know, he was also Gallagher's who insured him. I think paid for his surgery, his vet bills and stuff. So I think even without that, everyone would have done their best to save him anyway.
I think it is important to highlight the fact that these injuries don't happen that often. When it does, it's treated properly.
So Charlotte called me from the office at Fergal's and basically asking could he come here to recuperate.
After Charles Street's operation, it knocked him for 6, as it would anybody. He lost a lot of condition. You know, he'd been very, very fit obviously before that, but to watch him what he was to what he is now, the progress has been tremendous.
He was quite grumpy when he came, but he seems to have really come round. I think he's thought, actually, having as much food as I can eat and gazing out the window all day is actually quite nice.
He hand walks twice a day at the minute, 15 minutes twice a day, and will build up to some longer exercise on the horse walker. The vets have been brilliant. They've been in contact as well with the vets that did the surgery, so liaising with them. They're happy now that he can do some light walking exercise, which is what he's been doing.
He's doing better than I had expected to, you know, on the day that I first x-rayed the knee.
I don't think they would have thought at the early stages he'd be moving like this, so it's really good. And he seems happy in himself.
So I'll periodically pop in on him, you know, have a look at him, have a feel of his leg. I think we radiographed him a couple of weeks ago, so we can monitor that healing process, and that will guide us then as to when he can be on paddock turnout, full paddock turnout, etc.
It seems to be going in the right
direction so far. He seems really happy in himself. He seems pretty sound and comfortable. So hopefully just keep progressing the way it's going. And yeah, it looks really good at the minute. We're gearing up, I think, early spring. Hopefully he can be turned out in a very small paddock, and then eventually build up. He can be turned out, you know, in a large paddock long term, hopefully.
To see the progress of Charles Street and see hopefully that it turns out to be a happy ending for him, and that the loyalty that the owners have put into him, it tugs at the heart really.
You guys were last here in January and it's now the middle of April, and yeah, you can see he's massively progressed into turnout in a small pen. So yeah, really pleased with him. We continued the walker exercise. The vet obviously came, had a look at the leg to see how it was progressing. They were very happy that he can now go out in a small paddock. So yeah, he's on controlled exercise in a small pen every day. He's absolutely loving it. It's nice for him to be able to get out and about. Obviously it's important to have a controlled area like this so he can't gallop around and push the injury too far. It's just important to take it slowly.
It's lovely now that he can go and live in the field, eating grass, doing what a horse enjoys most.
It's hard to believe, you know, we'd even get to this point at the beginning. It would just be nice to think he's got another chance at life really, because obviously it looked pretty bleak at one point. But it's been really interesting experience all along as well to see his progression. Good boy.
So hopefully after his rehab is all done, Alistair, who works at Warwick for the Jockey Club, it'll be lovely that you know, that someone like Alistair will be able to look after him and have him and see him progress, yeah, and hopefully he'll have a happy retirement really, you know.
He's done so much for them. He was always a very consistent horse and tried his best every time, so it's really nice that he can be rewarded and having a nice retirement at the end of this.
You're a good lad.